Hey, shout out to Tedward. Thank you. Always dropping the best content. I've been watching him for a minute. This is one of the best M5s ever. Probably behind the F10. This is the best one. Or this is. So it's up there at 1 or 2. Let's get into it. Fair use. Peace.
BMW M5. This is the E39 chassis. It's got a naturally aspirated 5-liter, or for the particular 4.94-liter V8 with individual throttle bodies, and this is maybe one of the most quintessential M cars ever made. I think if you want to encapsulate M in one vehicle, this does it all. It's understated, it's a wolf in sheep's clothing, it sounds incredible, and it's an absolute screamer. Holding it to the road is a 245 section 18-inch tire in the front and a 275 18-inch tire in the rear. This staggered design is great, but it makes it a bit of a pain because you can't rotate them. A lot of folks buy another set of the rears, another pair of the rears, pop them up front, and then you've got a 275 square setup. That'll help this thing really turn into a corner. For those of you who are into all the options on these cars, this one has the PDC, the parking distance control. It has ostrich leather, the faux ostrich leather, which is what you can see right here, sort of that texture.
Alright, well, let me just get into the drive. Like Rihanna said, finish it for me. Shut up and drive. Yeah, this V8 is so smooth.
Now, while this is a potent engine, it's got about 400 horsepower, around the same amount of torque, it's not like a drag car. I remember being a kid watching StreetFighter.net, because that's the only place we could have watched cars like this back in the day, thinking, wow, these things are just absolute tire shredders. People doing burnouts and 0 to 60s and really launching these cars. But when you drive them, you interact with this car and you realize that is actually not the vibe. It's more of an Autobahn burner. So it's not about that hardcore launch 1-2. It's more about that 3-4-5 that this thing really shines at.
Yep.
Let's get this thing out to a proper motorway.
It's an Autobahn car. Wow, that engine is... It just sounds so sweet.
What's frustrating for me right now is that this car actually feels a heck of a lot better than my car, because the suspension is not nearly as worn. This has half the miles on the car, and it's really inspiring me to go out and maybe go to FCP Euro and do a full suspension refresh on my car. It's incredible how tight these things handle, despite their weight. They're not very light, but the mass of the M5 is actually one of the things that makes it so great, because it's kind of stable in its speed. This is a car that you could comfortably drive at 150 miles an hour and just enjoy. One thing I would upgrade today are the brakes. They're not monster brakes. They're single piston calipers front and rear. Not the most impressive thing, and not exactly something that you're going to want to rely on for repeated stops from triple-digit speeds. But the thing it does so well is fly under the radar. It's just a silver sedan.
Yeah.
It's not really anything to most people.
I've always loved this.
It doesn't look like a stunning car, and I mean, of course, it's beautiful and handsome, but it's not a Ferrari. And this is Corvette performance at the time in a BMW sedan. It's absolutely crazy. This is why Alex Roy used an E39 M5 through Gumball 3000 and later for Cannonball in order to break that record of 32 hours 7 minutes. He used the E39 M5 because to anybody looking at the car, it was just a blue sedan. It's a lot easier to get called in and say, hey, red Ferrari, and every cop in the area is going to know exactly who you are. Whereas if you're in a blue sedan, you might be able to get away with it.
Yep. That's true.
So much juicy low-end torque. That's what's beautiful, but you barely even need that downshift.
Wow.
this engine. It just pulls and pulls and pulls.
Yeah.
Despite cars being a heck of a lot faster today, this has never disappointed me. It always feels incredible. Wow, what have you done? Get into these brakes a little bit. I mean, they're plenty. They don't make you nervous, but you know that from high speeds, you're going to want a little more than that. But here's the beauty of the M5, is while it can be brutally fast on the highway, it can be incredibly supple and drive like a limousine. That's why back when BMW had a massive marketing budget, they were making BMW films. And the Clive Owen Madonna episode is easily the best one, where they're driving her to the venue. It's a lovely thing to touch and interact with, but you don't get all the information that you would through a typical rack and pinion.
I have a challenge for all of you.
Pinion steering setup. So you don't get that, and I believe they did this because they had to make room for the oiling system. Now it's not a dry sump, but it does have a few extra pickups, so it's kind of like a faux dry sump, I suppose. But you know.
Well, that was an amazing video, and these M5s, you know, they're really smooth. These E39s. How could you not love them? I think it compares with like an E55 of 03. These both 03. I mean, that E55 is crazy. But I need to hear both of them modded to really know which is better. I wouldn't care for, well, I would probably get this, but you can't go wrong with either. Thank you for watching.